Dan Silverman, are you on and ready to get going soon?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great.
Um, I didn't think this was my meeting
I
to
mean, I can
moderate,
run
but I
it.
will if
It's
you
it's
want
just
me
a
to.
matter of asking people to speak when they're ready. So I can do that, but I just want to make sure you're here and
Yes, yeah, that's
on
fine.
standby.
This is really not town meeting business. It's
No,
town.
no, it's fine. I can. It's not going to take much. Just letting the speakers go, so I can just handle the moderating part of it, I guess.
If you don't mind.
Sure. Mia, is Mia still here? Oh, she's all set. Okay. All right. Well, then I guess we will get rolling here. Okay, so welcome everybody to the 2020 Special Town Election Forum. As it says on the screen here, the special town election is taking place on Tuesday, September 8th from noon to 7 at the Council on Aging or by mail. If you did opt to do mail-in voting, but you haven't delivered your ballot yet, please do so. The annual town meeting will take place on Saturday, September 12th at 10 a.m. at the ball field across from the elementary school. So the whole purpose of this forum tonight is to really go over the 10 election questions that will be on your ballot on September 8th. And so what we're going to do is have the groups or staff members who are representing those requests for spending present a little bit on each question to give some more detail so you feel a little bit more comfortable speaking or going to the polls and voting. So the first one we're going to start with is the question number 1, which is the water system upgrade. And I see that Jim Hood, who's the chair of the Board of Water Commissioners, is here. So Jim, I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right, thank you, Courtney. I'm here to talk to you about the warrant article that has to do with the municipal water system and affordable housing. So it's Article 10 on the warrant. It's here as issue number 1 on the ballot. So Article 10 requests that the town authorize borrowing of up to $3.84 million to finance installation of a water main to replace an undersized 4-inch water main from the town's secondary water source, the Coles Neck Wellfield on Gristmill Way on the north side of town. The existing main was installed in 1989 when the original water system was built to service the Coles Neck area near the transfer station. While the 3 wells at that site are able to pump up to 100,000 gallons daily, the undersized water main can provide only 40,000 gallons of hydraulic flow on a daily basis. The new water main will originate at the existing Gristmill Way wellfield and follow the original design down Old Hay Road to Route 6. At the junction of Coles Neck Road, the water main will continue down Route 6 and enter the town on Briar Lane, connecting to the water main on Main Street. The new path for the main will allow properties on Old Hay Road, Route 6, and Briar Lane to connect to the system. The existing water main on Coles Neck Road will remain to service the properties in that neighborhood. The town's primary water source, the Boy Scout Camp Wellfield near the Council on Aging, has 2 wells that are able to pump up to 100,000 gallons of water daily that flows through an 8-inch main from the wellfield down Cahoon Hollow Road, connecting with the water main on Main Street and serving the water tower on Lawrence Road. Average daily usage on the water system is approximately 34,000 gallons daily, but that number increases substantially in the summer months when more homes are open and the population increases. Over the past 5 years, average daily usage during the 6 months from May through October has been approximately 45,000 gallons, a number that increases even more during the height of the summer season. In June of this year, average daily usage was just over 63,000 gallons a day. So a few questions that might be asked about this is when the primary water source, the Boy Scout Camp Wellfield, and the associated 8-inch water main on Cahoon Hollow Road able to supply upwards of 100,000 gallons daily, why is a new water main necessary? Well, under Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection's regulations for public water systems, the town's secondary water source must be able to provide adequate supply of water to meet the demand of the system in the event that the primary source, in this case, the Boy Scout Camp Wellfield, is offline. The existing water main from Coles Neck Wellfield cannot supply the demand due to the limited hydraulic flow resulting from the 4-inch main. So what is the chance that a primary water source could be unavailable? Well, the likelihood of the Boy Scout Camp Wellfield or the water main from that site not being available is indeed low. However, in June of this year, a lightning strike at the site damaged one of the wells and the control system, requiring replacement of the equipment. It took several weeks to complete the repairs, during which time the town was reliant on the remaining Boy Scout Camp well and the Coles Neck Wellfield. What's the benefit of this project to affordable housing? Well, installation of a new water main will ensure an adequate, reliable water supply from both the town's primary and secondary well fields. The proposed development of 46 units of housing on Lawrence Road is anticipated to increase demand on the system by approximately 9,000 gallons daily. Another question, are there other benefits to installation of a new water main? The answer, yes. The proposed 8-inch water main will provide fire protection along the route of the water main. Old Hay Road, a section of Route 6, and Briar Lane. The water main along that route will also allow up to 80 additional properties to connect to the system, resulting in more revenue for the Water Enterprise Fund to offset the cost to fund and operate the system. One might ask, what will it cost to fund the installation of the water main? The article requests approval of a Proposition 2.5 override to borrow up to the full estimated cost of the installation, $3.84 million. In the event that the town were to borrow the full amount through a low interest rate loan, long-term loan, the impact of the tax rate could be around 7 cents per thousand, or $35 annually on a home assessed at $500,000. The Board of Water Commissioners hopes to secure a substantial portion of those funds necessary through grants. An initial small town housing choice grant of $100,000 was received from the state last year to begin planning for the project. And last week, the town of Wellfleet submitted a grant application for the full amount of the installation to the state's Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development through their Mass Works Infrastructure Program. The goals of that program, which are to expand affordable housing and economic development. Installation of the proposed new water main will correct a long-standing deficiency in the water system, improve the reliability and redundancy of the system, and it will position the town to proceed with a much-needed affordable housing project to serve the community and its residents. I thank you for the opportunity to tell you why this is so important to the town.
All right, thank you so much, Jim. If you do have any questions, the chat is open and you may also use the raise hand feature and I will unmute you. So if there's any questions, take this time now to let me know. We'll also do a Q&A at the very end as well. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions coming in here, Jim, so we'll move on to the next.
Okay, I would just like to add, if anyone would like a copy of the notes that were prepared for this, you can call the water office at 508-349-0330, and we can provide you an email with the notes for this presentation.
Yep, they're actually also on the website, Jim. I put them on the 2020 annual town meeting page, which can be found via the homepage. On the left-hand side, there's a pre-election forum information, and your notes, as well as any other notes that were sent to me for tonight, are in that place on the website.
Thank you.
So I'll put that link in the chat to everybody. All right. Thanks, Jim. So the next we will do is question 9, which deals with the Wellfleet Elementary School fire suppression engineering. And so, sorry, Helen Miranda Wilson. Yes,
yeah,
Helen?
I apologize. I've been raising my hand. For some reason, it didn't come through. So, Jim, thank you for all the data you provided and got together. I have a question. We were originally offered an option that was different than this, which simply had the pipes going from the wells in North Wellfleet on Gristmill Way to the highway, crossing the highway and connecting up with pipes that are already in the ground that go past the developments on Culls Neck Road and provide water to 3 subdivisions there that were part of the original water system. And it was the condition for those developments to happen that they be served by a municipal water system, as you know, but I'm laying it out for other people. Here's a question. If the idea of running hundreds of feet of pipe up along Route 6 to Briar Lane was not the way to ensure a redundant well, which we do have to have, and to ensure a hydraulic flow that would provide enough water to the 45 Lawrence Road project, which I'm very much in favor of. And there are already pipes up there with municipal water. Would it be possible to provide that additional pressure and gallons per day to the 45 Lawrence Road project without going up along Route 6 and Briar Lane? Because that was in the first option. So is that possible? It was unclear to me after the exchange we had the other day. We didn't get to that.
So
A question to you, Jim.
okay, I hear you. I hear the question. So yes, that was the first of 2 options that was provided to us by the engineering firm that we had used for the design of the water system, Environmental Partners. And the cost to replace the main along Culls Neck Road was just over $100,000 less than the cost to bring a new water main down along Route 6 and in on town along Briar Lane. The benefit, as I said before, of bringing it down Route 6 and in on Briar Lane is that we are able to offer water service then to a substantially greater number of properties than would be if we were just replacing the main along the stretch on Culls Neck Road. The actual reality is that the replacement main along Culls Neck Road is actually longer than it would be to bring a water main in on Briar Lane. And the other thing is that it would, again, benefit the town to bring that in and provide fire protection in those areas of town as well.
May I respond to that? I understood that, and you stated it clearly the first time, and I appreciate that. However, 80 properties, certainly not all of which need water. And the thing that wasn't mentioned, although thank you for getting the estimate for the taxes going up in this presentation, is that every length of pipe is an added cost infinitely into the future. Pipes have to be replaced roughly every 30 years, and often they spring leaks before that. I understand about the fire suppression, but there's an issue with that. If you looked at how many gallons per day were used up in 24 hours when we had the fire in the Central District, which I'm happy was put out, and I'm happy there was a fire hydrant there, it put a big dent temporarily in our zone of contribution for the big wells. And I'm just bringing this added information up because we need to know all the pros and cons of this. I'm not yet sure whether I want to vote for this or not, but given that we could already supply, hold on, wait, one more thing. We have happening at the same time something that would alleviate the need for example, Briar Lane and some of the other large users along there, 2 restaurants and the Outer Cape Health, to have a source of water that was not on their own property. And that is the fact that we are supposed to be dealing with a 208 plan. I would say that, as people have said now for decades, the thing to address along there is the wastewater issue. And the wastewater issue could be addressed by a good cluster system. And I'm not sure in this year where we're all tightening our belts, if we shouldn't be looking at doing that, given that we're required to do that for the 208 plan, because that's all going into the watershed, the marsh. So that's a con for me on this article. And I just wanted to be sure that everything was put on the table about this.
Well,
So we could
do a question.
Lawrence Road.
That is that the information you shared about that the zone of contribution related to that fire that happened in town that was impacted by that. Do you have information regarding that? Because I have not seen or heard anything regarding that in any way caused any detrimental effect to the zone of contribution by using fire hydrants to fight that fire.
So let me respond to that. I don't have the specifics for what happened, except that it took a few days to refill the water tower. I think you told me that back at the time. Perhaps I have mistaken who I got the information from. But what I do know generally is what happens with the slow motion of groundwater into our zones of contribution for the large wells. It happens slowly, and we always want it to happen slowly. I didn't say it was necessarily detrimental, but when I think of gallons per day, I always add in my mind, what might happen with a big fire and if the well could handle it or not. So all that said, I feel that there's enough information on the table right now from you, Jim, and from me, and from anything else people know, to be able to vote on this properly. So thank you for all the work you've done on this.
Thank you.
Jim, we did get a couple questions in the chat here. So the first one is, given the state of the times, how do you feel that the chances of getting state funding are likely or not? I guess you really can't answer that.
Well, I can answer that both the town of Brewster and Truro applied for funding through the Mass Works infrastructure program and were granted and received grants last year for that program. So the state is really interested in encouraging the development of affordable housing and economic development, both of which would be, I think, that would benefit the town here by providing, if we do this project the way it's currently on the ballot, by providing the potential for strengthening economic development along those routes, ensuring a safe and redundant water supply for the town, and supporting businesses that currently exist in that area.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is, how many new hookups have there been to the existing water system during the last 2 years, if you know?
How many what?
New water hookups have there been to the existing system?
That's a good question. The total potential for the water system right now, as it stands, is approximately 550 properties could be connected to the system. Because this is, was a voluntary option for property to connect, we only have at this point around 270 connections on the system. So we still have a considerable number of potential customers in the existing system. And the properties that we're proposing to add on in this, we don't anticipate that all of them will actually hook up. I think what will happen is it will be those, like some of the ones that we have seen over the last 2 years, that have needed to connect to the system because of, say, a failed septic system or a septic system that was too close to a well or to a neighbor's well, so that they were forced really to join on to the water system in order to protect both their well or neighbor's well, and also be able to have a sanitary system on their property. Helen makes a very good point about the 208 plan, which has to do with the septic systems, and that's something that has to be addressed as well. We know this, the town is facing this, but I'm not going to go into that because it's really not my area of expertise. But it's clearly, there are a number of properties that have gone on, approximately 15 last year, and we're facing 4 or 5 right now who are asking for a connection to the water system in the central district.
All right, I think you dropped out at the end there a little bit, Jim.
I said approximately in the last year, there were 14 new properties that went on the system last year, and we have an additional 5 that are pending right now, all of those in the central district.
Okay, thank you. Justina Carlson has her hand up.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, I can say as a former chair of the Water Commission, Wellfleet's pretty unique in that connecting to the water system is voluntary, which has its pros and cons, hence the connection issue. I think this is a good option because it gets us to Route 6, which is important, as Chief Polly has said, for firefighting. I personally feel it's important that the health service has the option of connecting Outer Cape Health, and of course, Briar Lane businesses as well. If we want to have our Lawrence Road housing, EPG did a very good explanation of why this is the best option, and I would go with our engineering firm. So I am strongly in support of this question one that the water commissioners have worked so very hard on, and they are a very professional bunch. Thank you.
Thanks, Justina. Jim, we have a couple of questions here. Over the last 3 years, how much has the town subsidized the water system?
I don't have an exact number in front of me, but I know that we've had allotments of, I believe, 120 to 140,000. But again, this part of that has to do with that we don't have a sufficient number of customers on the system paying into the system, either through connection fees or through usage charges. As Justina said, it's voluntary at this point. But there is a need, and there are properties out there that do need to connect to the system because they have problems with their water, or or not being able to achieve the appropriate distances from a neighbor's well or a neighbor's septic system.
Okay, thank you, Jim. And then the last question from Helen is, does your estimate of the potential gallons per day include the tally of gallons reserved for the ATBS in the original Coles Neck system?
Yes, and I know what Helen is talking about here is when the design for the system out by the transfer station was done, there were additional properties that were also included in that plan, and that it reflected approximately 20,000 gallons a day to service those properties. That just as what I would have said before on that is that indeed the potential for serving those properties is there, because the water main is not only coming from the Coles Neck well field, it's also coming into that area through West Main Street, from the main on Main, West Main, and Pole Dyke, and that provides additional water into that area. So there's adequate water out in that area through the existing water main system to service the additional properties that were part of that original agreement for the area around the transfer station.
Okay, thank you so much, Jim. I'm not seeing any more questions, so we're going to move on to question number 9, which is the Wellfleet Elementary School Fire Suppression Engineering, and Jim Nowak from Nauset Schools is here.
Yep, thank you, just unmuted.
Yep, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
Okay, what we're looking at, a few years ago, Chief Pauly had inspected the elementary school and suggested that we do need a fire suppression system in there. There's never been one in the building. It should have been installed, from what he says, back in early 2000, in early 1990s when the addition was put on. We looked into it, and yes, he's correct. We have to do that. And the building department both recommended putting in a fire suppression system. So we looked into that. We had a quick engineering done, not complete, just a quick look to give us estimates of what the engineering would cost and what the construction costs would be. So that's where the $110,000 comes from. Anybody have any questions?
Let's see. Okay, Helen, is this related to question 9?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
My take from numerous visits with the fire chief is we have to do this, and I'm glad that the language has been changed from referring to a study. It's changed to actually paying for what we need to have done in order to do it. So I support it wholeheartedly because we don't have any choice. We have to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Give it a couple seconds in the chat here. Is the fire suppression system, if it had been installed in 2000, how much cheaper would it have been?
I couldn't have guessed.
Yeah.
It was actually on the blueprints for the addition, but it never got installed. I don't know who had that authority to waive it, but it never got installed. And just so everybody knows, the fire alarm saves lives. The fire suppression system will save property.
Yep. And Chief Pauly is on. He said he's going to help answer that question.
Hello, everyone. Just a quick synopsis. Mr. Nowak is correct. When the addition was made to the elementary school, the second, the most current addition, the state building code required not only the addition to be fully sprinkled with a fire suppression system, but then to retrofit the existing older section of the building that goes back decades. There's not a lot of documentation. Actually, there is no really documentation as to why that was not put in place. There's some discussions from folks in the past that because there was no municipal water system in place, that it could not support the fire suppression system. However, under the state building code then and now, that suppression system should have been installed. And as Jim noted, it was in the original plans and escaped somehow at the 12th or 11th hour. So it certainly would have been a lot cheaper to put the system in back then when the construction was all open with the addition. However, now it has to be retrofitted, and those costs are significantly more, probably in my experience, 50% more, because you have to retrofit around existing construction and structural issues. But it is what it is, unfortunately. I hate to use that term currently, but it is required by state building code. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I'm not seeing any other questions here. last call for questions about question 9. Okay, thank you, Jim and Nowak, for being here. We really appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, moving on to question 3. We'll replace 1 police cruiser. The chief of police is here. All right, take it away.
I think I just unmuted, right, Courtney?
Yep, you're set.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Courtney, for putting this on. Good evening, everybody. Mike Hurley, your police chief. Just want to speak briefly on question 3, Article 2C. The police department originally had 2 cruisers in our capital budget for the FY21 capital plan to coincide with our regular vehicle replacement schedule. The department was looking to replace a 2013 SUV with 112,000 miles and a 2014 SUV with 122,000 miles, and that was back in June, those miles. As you can imagine, these are hard miles being operated on a 24/7 basis with multiple drivers, putting certain wear and tear on vehicles that one would not see on their personal vehicles at home. The department vehicle replacement plan calls for replacing 1 marked cruiser every 4 years and an administrative cruiser every 6 years. Due to the current financial concerns and possible impact on the FY21 budget, 1 of these cars was removed from our capital plan last month. This has resulted in a reduction of $50,000 from our original request. The department is concerned with falling behind on the cruiser replacement plan due to the cost of repairing aging vehicles and the reliability of operating them 24/7. This past week, we just came into a new world, the COVID world, that 1 of our newer cars has some front end issues under warranty. Those parts are back ordered and we can't even get a due date on when the dealership will see the parts due to slowdowns and COVID issues at the Ford plant. So at the moment, we're down to 3 marked vehicles, and this is what tends to happen as you deal with an aging fleet. Article 2C in the 2020 annual town meeting warrant now requests, as I stated, just 1 car. Again, thank you for your continued support for the police department and its members. And we do recognize and understand that we are in some tough financial times right now and looking to move forward. So thank you, Courtney.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions out there for the police chief? How has the usage of these vehicles this summer compared to last summer?
The typical as usual. I mean, they're out there on patrol, they're out there on extra details. So I don't have the official mileage for the end of the summer, but they are used. We do bring on our summer staff, which is an additional typically 6 to 8 officers. Even though they're typically not on patrol alone, they may be out there covering accidents or details. So, my guess would be it's about average.
Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions here, but you'll stick on until the end in case we get any more?
Yep, I'll be around for any other questions.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
The next question, we're going to be moving into the fire department. So Chief, back on.
Again, hello, everyone. Rich Paul, your fire chief. Thank you, Courtney, for assisting us in this. As many of you know, over the last few years, we've been asking to add additional full-time staff because of the diminished amount of on-call folks that are available. This started basically in fiscal year 2018, when we added 2 with town meeting approval. In fiscal year 2019, we added 1 more with town meeting approval, and that came out of the ambulance receipts fund. And then last year, fiscal year 20, we added 2 with an override, but also got a federal grant to greatly supplement that those expenses over 3 years. Courtney, if you could move, you have it right there. Thank you. This is so efficient. The current chart that you see there shows the organizational chart as it currently exists. We run a 4-group system. 4 groups are required to cover 24-hour shifts. The industry standard is a 4-group system for 24-hour coverage over 365 days a year, which averages out to a 42-hour work week for our personnel. We really need to be at a minimum of 4 personnel per group. That allows us to staff 2 ambulances if we have back-to-back EMS ambulance calls, or staff the engine to the National Fire Protection Association standards. So as you can see from the existing, from the current organizational chart, we have 2 people on group 1, 2 individuals on group 2, 3 individuals on group 3, and 3 individuals on group 4. We supplement that with 2 daytime firefighters that are assigned to a group. So that helps a little, but it certainly doesn't cover the needs that we have presently or in the future. As I said before, we have a declining number of on-call people. We now have only 5 active on-call members, and that is down from 16 on-call members in 2013. So in 7 years, we've lost a significant amount of on-call folks, and that is just consistent with nationwide and Cape-wide demographics. If you could go to the next chart, please. Thank you, Courtney. So the next chart shows if we can get these 2 positions approved at town meeting, which would be a Proposition 2.5 override, that we'd be able to have 3 personnel on each group, groups 1, 2, 3, and 4. Seeing that group 1 and group 2 would now have 1 more on each, and we would still have the 2 daytime people. It doesn't solve the problem, but it gets us almost there. I know from previous town meetings in the past few years, you've listened to me discuss this, and I'm sure it gets a little tiresome, but it is something that we have to continue to work on. So the good news is that between, if this warrant article gets approved for 2 additional positions, I hope to only have to come back to the town meeting 1 or 2 more times for a position or 2 out of an override, and then additional funding might be available or should be available with additional retirements on the on-call side. So that's what we're looking to try to do. Courtney, if you could go to the next slide. And again, this is all on the town website and is available. I can email this out to anyone who is looking to keep or look into it a little further. So now, as I said, we're down to 5 on-call members, and we need to really look at this time urgently get the 2 more positions that will help us in the next several months to a year. And at that point, I'll take any questions. Again, I thank the town because the town has been very, very supportive of our efforts in this in the last 3 years, and we are appreciative of your support.
Okay, thank you, Chief. I'm not seeing any questions coming in yet.
Okay.
Do you want to move on to your next one?
Yeah, we'll move on to the next one, and I'll be here throughout the whole meeting. So
Okay, great.
anything that comes up, I'm more than happy to. So the next article is to replace the department's command car. Originally, it was supposed to be replaced in last year's fiscal year, or I should say the current fiscal year of 2020, or last year's. But we delayed it 1 year because we felt we could get another year out of the vehicle. It's a 2013 Chevy Tahoe, but it is showing considerable wear and tear and considerable signs of underbody corrosion and rust, which is very typical, as most of us know, here on the Cape. I really struggled with this, with trying to put it off 1 more year, but I don't think that that is really going to work, and I don't think it's going to allow for a safe vehicle on the road at this point. We're seeing increased maintenance costs. The vehicle is on the road on an average, a minimum of 6 days a week, between work days and at least a Saturday or a Sunday. And of course, it's always available, and it is available, and does respond on a 24-hour basis for emergencies. This vehicle would be bought off a state bid, as we've always done in the past. The requested amount is $55,000, and that includes the purchase, outfitting of all emergency equipment, and new radios that we have to replace that are over 20 something years old. So again, we would support, or would appreciate the town's support with replacement of this vehicle. And I'm
Okay.
here for any questions.
Helen?
Yes, Chief, a question I've never yet asked. Surprise. Is it possible to replace the radios and that part of the equipment, you know, everything that isn't a vehicle that, let's say, I would buy? Is it possible to replace that without replacing the vehicle? And the second part of the question is, how much does the vehicle cost, and how much does what is in parentheses here described as purchase outfitting emergency equipment and radios? In other words, what's the split there? And is it possible just to replace the stuff you need to stay in touch?
Two good questions. So the cost of the vehicle itself is approximately $39,000. That is still an estimate based upon new models. And as Chief Hurley mentioned, with the uncertainty of manufacturing with the automobile manufacturers, we're not even sure that the vehicle is available at this point. It should be very soon. I've seen some of them out there in the field that are very similar to what we're looking at. So the vehicle itself is approximately $39,000. Radios are about another $10,000, which have to be replaced because the current radios that we have are no longer supported by the manufacturer, and they date back to 1995. Were actually used at the Summer Olympics in Atlanta, and the whole radio system is due for an upgrade. So we really need to replace the current radios. So that brings us up to about $49,000, and it's about another $6,000 for emergency lights and siren and that type of stuff. So that's the basic breakdown.
Yeah, hold on a minute. Courtney?
Yes.
Yeah, just to follow up then. But isn't it possible, I'm nickel and diming here, but that's part of the role, you know? So just making sure everything gets put on the table. You know, let's say there's an emergency call, what people who, let's say are call firefighters, rescue people, they have one of those things they can put on the top of the, you know, the roof of the car. In other words, there are ways around that. There are not ways around the radios. The radios really sound like they need to be replaced. But
with all due respect, when we're out on Route 6 or even on Main Street, there are not a lot of folks when a car is sitting there shutting down a lane. There are some folks that aren't paying attention. So one little red light on the roof is not going to allow for a safer or any type of safe warning system. Yes, those are used with, you know, in limited examples nowadays, but we need to make sure that the vehicle has the proper emergency equipment, so it not only protects the vehicle but protects the people that are on the street or in the parking lot. And you know, we do the minimal that we need to do, but you know, the engineering and the way the vehicle warning system is set up reflects those costs, unfortunately.
thank you.
Okay, Justina, and then we have one question from the chat.
Hi, Chief Polly. Quickly, thank you for taking us safely through the season of COVID, you and your department, and all you do. And I want you and your department to have the equipment you need to continue to keep us safe. So I support question 4, and I think it's a reasonable request.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And the last question is, does the command vehicle act as a backup to ambulance calls?
The command vehicle responds to a majority of the calls in the community. It cannot transport an individual because it's not licensed as a Class 5 ambulance. We've never had to do that. We've never really anticipated that. There are none what we call Class 5 ambulances on Cape Cod. But yes, the command vehicle does respond to a significant number, certainly well over 50% of the emergency calls on average over the course of the year.
Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands or questions right now, so let's move on to question 5, replace fire and rescue equipment on Forestry 90.
Thank you, Courtney. We had Forestry 90 is a 2007 Chevrolet Silverado, which the vehicle is actually in still very good shape. However, the skid tank, the pump, the foam system that we need and the associated equipment was basically made from scratch in 2007. We've had a lot of issues with it over the years. We've had it fail during brush fires and forest fires. It was an attempt to save some money 13 years ago, and it was a good attempt, but it really never came to be fully successful. And now it's becoming more and more problematic. So what we propose to do is take the existing handmade, basically assembly off of the current truck and put in a National Fire Protection Association approved skid tank, which would be a 200-gallon water tank, 120-gallon per minute pump, and Class A foam system. These are made professionally, again, and we go through a company with a state bid procurement. I bought 2 others before. We've had great success in other communities, but it will essentially basically allow us to fight brush fires properly. We won't have the multiple failures and breakdowns that we've seen over the last several years. We will eliminate the problems with leaking pumps and foam system, and it will be made to current standards. The requested amount is $40,000, and that will provide a little extra money left over to improve the cabinetry on that truck. And again, I shouldn't say again, we're going to replace this, make this request last year's town meeting and through the budget process. But essentially, we withdrew it because there were so many other big ticket items. If you recall, that between the harbor dredging question, again, us asking for 2 more personnel, we recognized at that time that we would try to get another year out of the existing system. But now this is really the time that we need to replace it because it continues to fail. The picture shows the existing setup on the left, on your left on the screen, and the one on the right shows what this new system would look like or is engineered to, again, from a professional manufacturing outfit that replaces these they sell hundreds of them a month. So that's what we're requesting.
Okay, thank you. We'll give it a couple seconds for some questions to come in if there are any. Okay, I guess we'll move on to the next one. Question 6.
All right, thank you, Courtney. This is the last one, the last question requested by the fire department. I never thought in my career that I'd be coming to the town or any town meeting looking for and requesting sets of tactical gear to deal with MCIs, mass casualty incidents, and active shooter issues. But this is reality. All the Cape fire departments have worked together to work out mutual aid systems and mutual aid agreements that if we have some type of dangerous active shooter event, whether it be in Wellfleet or any other community, that we have proper gear that we can respond to that. We have gone to several meetings and have had several discussions, both with local police departments, state police, county sheriff's office. Essentially what we're doing is a part of this warrant article is to purchase 6 sets of tactical gear, MCI vests, helmets, etc., for a regional response that we can support if the time comes that we have to go to mutual aid to one of these events. And like I said, I never thought in my career I would be requesting this. I can tell you that my department members are fully supportive of this. This has not become a labor management issue. They understand the realities of today and how dangerous this world is. and they completely understand the need for this and have actively participated in speccing out this equipment. So that's one of the issues of, it's one of the things we're looking for to replace and purchase new EMS rescue equipment. We're also asking for an all-purpose UTV for both beach and off-road and remote area rescues and emergency responses. There's one currently used on the Oceanside Beach, which has had a lot of success, and that's owned by the beach department. We do use it jointly, but we're looking for a second one to be utilized on the southern part of the town beaches and also in the wooded areas as we go out to running rescues into the wooded areas and remote areas of the community. The other items we're looking to, this is all lumped together, for 3 replacement stair chairs for the ambulances, which are needed to be replaced because they're basically in excess of 15 years old and they're wearing out. We also, by state requirement now through the the Massachusetts Office of Emergency Medical Services, there's new protocols in for advanced life support and paramedic delivery of certain drugs and medicines that they're requiring intravenous medication pumps on each ambulance. That's something that we have to do. We have no choice. And then the last thing is to replace 6 outdated automated external defibrillators, or AEDs, that basically are no longer being supported by the manufacturer because they are in excess of 15, 18 years old. So the requested amount there is for $80,000, but this is basically a request for fire and rescue EMS equipment that is very, very much needed, and is something that we've pretty much drilled down on. So again, we appreciate the town's support in that area.
Okay, the first question, Chief, is how much does tactical gear cost?
The actual breakdown of the tactical gear is probably somewhere around between $10,000 and $12,000, probably close to the $10,000 mark, based upon the last the figures we've gotten a few months back on for state bid list.
Okay, thank you. And Justina has her hand up, so I'm gonna let her ask her question.
I'm probably dating myself here, but how many active shooters have we had in the Outer Cape lately?
To my knowledge, we haven't had any yet. Well, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Certainly, and the police chief can help me with this. We've had incidents on the Mid Cape,
Yeah.
certainly with shooting incidents. What we're trying to, our goal is here is that should there be some type of event of that we are prepared to respond to it. And I hope I'm wrong. I truly hope I'm wrong, that we'll never have to use this gear. I truly hope that that's the case. We'll never have to use this gear. But
Right.
we have to be prepared in case we are called into the Wellfleet or Truro or East Ham. And I don't want to mention any particular properties or any type of occupancies. I think everyone can kind of, based upon the history and what's going on in this country, you can kind of come up with your own conclusions. But again, all the departments on the Cape are providing similar equipment or the same equipment, and we're just trying to do it regionally that makes the most sense.
You feel it's a changing world and it's time to get prepared.
I'm so fearful for the future of our kids some days, that this world is changing so much, and I try to be optimistic, but as you know, I tell everyone in town, I have to be prepared. I have to prepare us for.
When you say kids, are you implying perhaps that this might be, when you say active shooter, perhaps a school event?
It could be any event, Ms. Carlson. And I say I'm kids, I'm talking about my son who's 25 and my nieces, they're in their early 20s
Sure.
and late teens. That this is a whole different world that I never thought that growing up that we would experience.
Changing world and danger your personnel may face.
Absolutely.
Got it. Okay, thank you for going over that with me.
You're welcome.
The next question is, what is the life expectancy of the tactical gear?
Again, like anything else, it will wear out. It will degrade. Chief Hurley can help me with this perhaps, but I would expect that we get somewhere between 7 and 8 years out of it, based upon other types of protective equipment that we've used on the fire side. But again, I'd have to defer to Chief Hurley's expertise on that.
Okay, I'll see if he has an answer.
Thanks, Courtney. Typically on the law enforcement side with ballistic vests and body vests and bulletproof vests, it's usually a 5-year window before there's a expiration. It doesn't mean that the equipment still does not work, but the manufacturers won't guarantee them after 5 years.
Okay, thank you. Helen, you have your hand up?
Yes, a little bit the same kind of question I asked previous to the forestry equipment replacement, which I support. So this is a whole lot of things together, and I get the replacement steer chairs, I get the intravenous medication pump, the defibrillators. But here's a question through you or either one of you to Chief Hurley, I guess. Chief Hurley, how much equipment does the police department have of this sort? Since you just answered the question, I would assume that there would be enough for the police department there. In other words, is there equipment in town that's available of this sort?
I'm sorry, Helen, I didn't catch the end of the question.
Do you have what's listed here, sets of tactical gear, MCI vests, helmets, etc., that kind of protective equipment available for people in the police department?
Yes, currently right now in the back of our line cruisers, while we do have some of that tactical gear that could be utilized at a scene immediately, we do not have each individual officer outfitted with it because of cost. Each individual officer does have their own vest that is assigned to them, but we do have some of that equipment ourselves.
And how much does, let's say you were just taking that one line here to completely equip an officer or a person in the rescue fire department with such equipment, how much would that cost?
To be completely honest, that was Chief Facette that went through that and did that. Right now, that it's nothing on my radar at the moment, nor in a capital plan. So I would just be taking a guess.
Chief Polly, do you have some sense ballpark?
I do. Again, we're looking at about $10,000 to $12,000 for 6 sets. So you could divide that up by 6 and it's about $2,000 per set.
Got it. Thank you. That's, it's not that I'm saying your people shouldn't have protection. I just like breakdowns when you have a whole list like this. Thank you.
Sure. And if I may, again, we're only talking, we're talking 6 sets. And essentially what that would do is if we have to respond to a mass casualty incident, that would be providing enough sets for 2 ambulance crews. And that's all we're doing. 3 people on an ambulance, 3 individuals. So that's basically, I think we've taken a very conservative approach to this because it's all new. And but I think we've done the best we can with a minimum amount of protection in terms of costs to protect 6 of our individuals should we run 2 ambulances out to a MCI.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'm not seeing any more questions, so.
Thank you all very much again for your support. We do appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Chief. So next up is DPW. Question 7, replace 2004 backhoe. And both Director Mark Vincent and Assistant Director Jay Norton are both on.
Yeah. Okay, Courtney, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, thank you very much, Courtney. Hello, everybody. I'm first going to talk about question number 7, replacement of the 2004 John Deere backhoe. This backhoe is used in many different aspects of DPW operations. It's used at the transfer station on a daily basis to compact municipal solid waste and handle recyclables. It is also used on various road and drainage projects, as well as storm emergencies for tree removal during hurricanes or bad storms. During the winter season, it's used for snow removal and loading salt. It is also this piece of equipment is is and has been obviously exposed to a harsh environment and difficult conditions such as salt and again, up at the transfer station while compacting refuse, which ultimately wears on the components and shortens the life of the machine. We have seen repairs increase, which ultimately increase the DPW operating budget. We are also mindful that it could possibly, if approved, take up to 1 year to replace the backhoe from the time frame of order to current, due to current production times. Replacement will help reassure that it is available for use on a daily basis and during emergencies. Having said that, we're seeing suspect problems of pins and bushings on the machine. Hydraulic system is suspect right now. And keeping in mind also retaining some sort of residual value in the machine so that we can get some sort of trade-in, which we're really unsure right now what that value might be based on when it would be traded in. Normally, I did actually put this to be replaced 2 years ago, and through prioritizing the capital plan, it has been pushed back 2 years. So it is in our interest as a department to get this replaced, hopefully sooner than later. And it's used, like I say, on a daily basis by the department. And I'll take any questions.
Okay, we have a question here from Ryan Curley.
Um,
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yes. So the replacement backhoe that's being proposed, that is going to be a 7-year lease.
No, that isn't the plan.
Okay. And the capital improvement plan, it was for a 7-year lease starting in 2021.
I originally had put it in as a lease, and the town administrator at the time changed that from a lease to a purchase.
Okay. Does it still come out to be $24,000 per year?
Well, there's in that lease, there's some interest built into that number. So that 24,000 would have included some interest, where this is an outright purchase and does not include that amount. Like the prices that we get in these machines right now are varying very much. So it's hard to put a hard number on this right now. So we're really relying on this trade to get us to where we need to be, because the purchase price is probably closer to 200,000 than 168. I don't know if that answers your question, Steve. But
okay. And then in the capital improvement plan, you also provided a itemized list of repairs. And from 2011 to December 2018, the total cost, including parts and labor, was $24,255.44.
correct. That was strictly outsourced repairs. That is what's not included in that is in-house repairs, parts or labor repairs. That was a new software system that we had put in place and does not include our own labor and parts that we purchase in-house to repair the vehicle, but that was outsourced repairs that you're looking. And that was only up until 2018. That number is actually slightly higher right now.
Yeah, it would be slightly higher with additional years.
Right.
How much has the DPW spent for in-house parts for the 2004 backhoe?
I'd have to go back and look that, Steve. I don't have that itemized list right now.
Okay, that's it for me, basically.
Yeah.
I just think that comparatively, we are spending much more on a backhoe than what we are currently paying for maintenance.
Right, and my concern is that going forward, and I mean, it's not the right term to use, but I don't have any type of catastrophic failures. where we're spending $24,000 on one repair, and then we're into a hydraulic system for just as much more again before we get around to trading a 16-year-old piece of equipment, and could be 17 years old by then. That's my concern. And like I say, we depend on that piece of equipment every day throughout the whole operation. So that's my concern.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
One question here is, would the lease have included servicing for the backhoe for 7 years?
Being a new vehicle and being under a lease, that would include, it would include, yes, service, but you buy a warranty. There's a purchase behind a warranty, and you can buy a 5-year warranty, you can buy a 7-year warranty, and you can buy a 10-year warranty. Parts and labor are covered under the first couple years, but then it's degrades after that till the time of, it would expire in 5 years unless you have purchased the 5, 7, or 10-year warranty program, which comes at its own cost. It can be $10,000, $12,000, or $14,000 depending on the piece of equipment and the length of the warranty.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. I'm not seeing any other questions on this one, so let's move on to question 8, which is the guard shack and canopy extension at transfer station.
Okay, thank you. This is again question 8. This has 2 pieces to it. I will speak to the canopy at the transfer station. The canopy will provide shelter for our 100-yard municipal solid waste and recycling trailers, and would be attached to the existing municipal solid waste building. If you're familiar up there where most people throw out their trash, there's a canopy up there, and this would be built off the back side of it, basically a lean-to off the back of that canopy that's up there now. This would keep out snow and rain of the open top trailers that have already been loaded, saving money on tipping fees from the extra weight of either rain or snow. And this would also prolong the life of the trailer. With a change in operations due to COVID, that has a further explanation in that we handle single stream recycling right now, and part of that recycling is done using open top containers as well as the compactors. So we need to cover those open top containers that have recyclables in them. And we have no effective way of covering them because you need to use a mesh cover top on them. You can't use a solid cover on those, practically speaking, because it's just too difficult to manage. So we'd be able to store these containers under this lean-to off the canopy, which would keep the elements out and free of rain and snow. It could also help destroy these containers over time, given the elements. It will provide a place for to perform a certain amount of maintenance and temporary storage of materials such as paint recycling, gaylords or boxes, and that type of material that we have to store for a time being until it is shipped out. The canopy will also allow us to continue our mattress recycling program throughout the winter months, which we currently cannot do because of snow load on our customized mattress containers. This would put that under cover through the winter time and help us continue that program. In regards to the new proposed guard shack, the guard shack is the final component of the new demo metal furniture area that you might recognize up there after some of our changes up there. It allows staff to be sheltered from the elements, but will be in a central location, allowing them to oversee and monitor the entire facility. This will increase safety and address any issues that come up far from the scale house, including traffic flow, misplaced items that have been dropped off, unpaid item drop off, and keep the area clean and empty. A small prefabricated building was planned on in the design for the new drop-off area, and power has already been run most of the way. With the completion of this shack and connection to the power, we will be able to use, we'll be able to plug in our engine heaters for the excavator and the roll-off truck and other equipment up there, so that they'll be warm for startups during the winter, reducing wear and tear and idle times on the vehicles. This also reassures that we are ready for winter snow removal. Currently, we have vehicles stored outside up there. This will help us provide electricity to engine block heaters, where we could plug them into, and in case there's a snowstorm and we need to access those vehicles, or any other vehicle like a roll-off recycling vehicle in the wintertime, it'll be easier to start and won't have to idle for a long period of time before we actually use it. So that will help also. I'll take any questions.
How much would just the canopy cost, no guard shack?
The canopy is around $35,000. I'm sorry, the canopy is approximately $40,000, and $15,000 is for the guard shack. I might also mention, if I may, Courtney, that given our social distancing efforts up at the transfer station, we really right now have the guard shack, where for the most part in the wintertime, all of the 3 staff have to gather in there to stay out of the elements. This will provide an additional area where at least one other employee could be stationed and survey the whole area, as opposed to in the scale house, you can only see a limited amount of area and see what's going on up there. This will provide an area where they can see everything in the recycling and trash area.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing any other questions right now, but we'll do another Q&A at the very end of it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And the final question is Public Works Lieutenant Island Road improvements. Question 10.
Okay. Question 10. Okay, these are would be improvements to Lieutenant Island Road. As you all know, Lieutenant Island Road is the sole access point for the Lieutenant Island section of Wellfleet, as well as other subdivisions and houses along the road. The road is in dire need of repair. Significant cracking along and across the road surface and varying intervals has created an uneven surface that makes travel along the roadway unsafe. And the safety issues become even more severe during the winter months, when the uneven surface makes snow removal difficult. A failing, inadequate storm drainage system within the roadway also regularly causes wet road conditions, while allowing for direct discharge of roadway runoff into designated areas of critical environmental concern. The repair of Lieutenant Island Road will result in a significant improvement to the safety of residents and visitors who use the roadway. It will also help protect the environmental conditions within the areas of critical environmental concern that border a major part of the roadway and currently receive direct stormwater runoff from the road surface. The reconstruction would include improved stormwater treatment structures. The $150,000 requested represents a supplementary amount of funding that would be utilized towards engineering and construction costs. There are also potential grant funding opportunities, as well as state Chapter 90 funds. That's what I have on that one right now. Courtney, I'll take some questions on that. If there are any.
Yes, we do have a question. Helen?
Hi
Go
there.
Hi,
Yeah. Hi. So usually we do get Chapter 90 funds to do this kind of thing, and we have in the past for repairing the Lieutenant Island Road, correct?
It's been a while since we've had any repairs on Lieutenant Island Road. About 9 years ago, there was a project that included a grant, scrap grant that I applied for. Unfortunately, the town received $500,000 grant and it did not accept the grant at town meeting. So this has been a little bit of a struggle to reinitiate this project and anticipate funding. I've been attempting to try to put some Chapter 90 funding aside with this in mind. But hopefully we'll get some grant funding also.
Okay, that's good. I'm remembering that and couldn't really figure out what happened. But anyway, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
How much could be expected from Chapter 90?
Well, we have a potential of about $750,000 that would be available today. I only say that because I have not submitted a project request form. This MassDOT would have to accept the project, and then authorize the funding. But we do have upwards of $1 million in Chapter 90 funding right now, but I also have other drainage and paving projects throughout town that I need to anticipate.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So we'll move on to just the final Q&A. If there's any other final questions for any of our staff or board members that have been here. Helen has her hand up.
Hi there. So back to you, Jim Hood, about the first question. And I just want to clarify something. Yesterday, I resent to the water commissioners some data that the health agent and Elaine McElroy and I put together very carefully when the site that includes the transfer station, that big lot, was one of the possible places to do affordable housing, and that doesn't turn out to be feasible. But we were looking at that, and we were looking at the Lawrence Road site. And when we were looking at the transfer station site, I pulled up what I had from back when I was a water commissioner, which was the original legal commitment to our first water system, which was called the Culls Neck Water System, which includes 3 different subdivisions, larger subdivisions in the area of the transfer station. And unlike other lots in town, all those lots have to be on a water system, a municipal water system, because of their proximity to the transfer station. And my question to you, Jim, is you gave a figure of 20,000 gallons per day, normal usage for that area. Did that include the estimate for that I resent yesterday, the gallons per day? So did that 20,000 include that?
The 20,000 that I mentioned before was out of that document. I pulled it from the document, assuming that there were no additional properties that have hooked up to the system since that document was produced.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay.
That's my question.
Thank you, Helen. Elaine McElroy?
Hi, thank you. Yes, since we're back at question 1, I just wanted to thank the water commissioners and Jim in particular for all the work that has gone into this and quite a bit of due diligence over the past year on the part of the 95 Lawrence Road Task Force too, which thankfully includes Jim Hood. It includes a select board member, planning board member, school committee member, housing authority, housing partnership, and a seasonal resident. And when we got to the point in our work, the due diligence we've been doing over the past year, including being able to work with a consultant free of charge from Mass Housing Partnership, Laura Schufelt, who is a Cape Cod resident, when we really realized that the issue with the secondary water system was going to impede being able to do the project. That's when Jim and I, with Jim doing most of the work, wrote the grant that got us $100,000 to study the situation. And we've also received a grant from the Cape Cod Commission to study the wastewater situation, looking at the options for alternative innovative systems or treatment systems. And in terms of the question about whether state money will be available, we do know there's money available this year. We know that this is a project that supports the Baker administration is supporting housing in a big way. And I think COVID has only pointed out the importance of having decent housing for our community. The grant that Jim and Mike Travato, the MassWorks grant, they did a lot of work. They received support letters from Sarah Peak and Julian Sear, from the Community Development Partnership, from the Homeless Prevention Council and the Housing Authority and the Local Housing Partnership. So I just wanted to kind of describe the due diligence that has brought us to this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine, and definitely thank you to everybody who's gone into doing all the amount of work that has gone into this project. We thank all of you for your efforts. A lot of you are volunteer, and it really means a lot to the town to have you all serving in this capacity and showing just how much love you have for Wellfleet and getting us to a really, really good spot in the future. So thank you all for all that you do. Justina Carlson, you have a question?
No. Elaine said just about all of what I could say. Just as a former water commissioner, I wanted to echo the thoroughness that the water commissioners have done in finding the best option for the water. The importance of getting to Route 6 and the fire protection that Chief Paula has repeatedly told us. The added benefit of serving out of Cape Health, the added benefit of Briar Lane, the importance, obviously, of getting it done for our for the Lawrence Road housing, and all the words Elaine said about the distinguished team that are getting the housing done.
Thank you, Justina. I'm not seeing any more questions here. So just a reminder on the screen, the 2 dates of the town election and the town meeting. Any other questions that you have, feel free to email any of the staff or call town hall at 508-349-0300, or email myself, which is courtney.butler@wellfleet-ma.gov, and we'd be happy to answer them from you. But thank you so much to everybody who's attended and to all the staff and board members who were able to participate tonight and provide some background information on these articles. So happy voting, and we will see you all at the town meeting on September 12th. Thank you, everybody, and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.